Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to talk about the best versions of Handel's fireworks and water musics. You know, even though they were composed about 30 years apart, the 1710s and the 1740s, they tend to be thought of together, probably because they are the two major orchestral works by Handel, which are not concertos and not operatic overtures or something else. And so they're kind of indefinable. What they really are is suites of dances preceded by a single overture, just as Bach's orchestral suites might be. But of course, Bach being Bach, his orchestral suites are rather highly organized, whereas Handel being Handel, his suites are a hodgepodge of various kinds of dances and things that you can throw together in different ways or play in different versions or do all kinds of different stuff with. It's really quite marvelous, the difference between the two composers who came from the same general part of Germany and who could not be more aesthetically opposed. It's just a terrific thing. It really is. Anyway, in looking at recordings of the water music and the fireworks music, you basically have two kinds of choices. There are the recordings that group them together. There are recordings that feature one or the other. Now, the water music is quite a bit longer than the fireworks music. I mean, the fireworks music, it's the music for the royal fireworks, by the way, is the technical title for the thing. I get it confused with Wagner all the time. I call it the magic fireworks music as often as not. It's not the magic fireworks music, but if I do that, if that slips in there during this talk, please forgive me. I get them all mixed up. Of course, Wagner's fire music, the magic fire music, is supposed to represent fire, whereas Handel's fireworks music was only written to be played during a festivity at which fireworks were featured. It's actually really rather amusing what happened. The story is kind of legendary because one of the pavilions caught fire and one of the soldiers was blinded by a rocket and some lady's dress caught fire. I mean, the fireworks wound up like killing more people and did not go very well. And it was raining on top of it all. On the other hand, the music was apparently quite successful. That is, for the survivors of that wonderful event. The water music, on the other hand, was composed to be played on a barge in the middle of the River Thames. By the way, since we talk about pronunciation so often, and whenever I say something that may be controversial, I get some hysterical comments from some of you. It really ought to be pronounced Thames. And you know how we know it should be pronounced Thames? I'll tell you. Because in Connecticut, there is a River Thames. And the River Thames in Connecticut, which is one of the three major rivers in Connecticut, along with like the Connecticut River and a couple other things there, the River Thames was called that by original settlers to Connecticut who arrived from England in Handel's day in the 17th and 18th centuries. So quite likely the River Thames was called the River Thames in Handel's day. I mean, I can't prove it, of course, but it's plausible. But I'm not going to be controversial. We're going to call it the River Thames. So the king wafted his way down the River Thames on his barge, and accompanying him was another barge full of musicians who supposedly played the water music. And it really is the water music is designed so that you can do as much of it or as little of it as you want. It's just a big pile of Baroque dances with an overture attached, and you can do it in any order you want. Modern performances tend to group these dances by key into 2 or 3 suites, depending on what your fancy is, but it really doesn't make any difference. And that's one of the things actually that makes the water music so popular. It's extremely versatile. It's designed to be done any way you want to do it. And what also makes both the fireworks music and the water music so marvelous is Handel's characterful exploitation of woodwind sonorities, because A, the king did not like string instruments apparently, and second of all, they were made to be played outdoors, which means you sort of need the cutting sound of wind instruments in order for the music to be heard at all, although Handel added strings to the fireworks music and included strings in the water music. But it's really they are wind-based pieces, which makes them just marvelous in terms of sonority, and also wonderful as pieces that work extremely well on period instruments. Because one of the interesting things about period instruments is that large groups of wind instruments do not tend to sound nastier and more strident. They actually tend to blend and sound kind of mellow and furry and warm and lovely. It's really very nice, the kind of sound they make. And we're going to talk about some of those. So let's get to the recordings. I've grouped them. I have a dozen here. I pulled out a dozen. I mean, there are endless numbers of them. I'm not using any of Hamilton Hardy's arrangements for modern instruments. I'm only talking about Handel's authentic original scoring of the works, but on performances, some of which are period instrument based, some of which are modern instrument based. And I've grouped them in three groups of four. One group combines the water music and the fireworks music on a single disc. One group has fireworks music with other couplings. And one group has the water music either by itself, because it really does fill up a single CD pretty well, or with something else which is not the fireworks music. That way we have plenty of choices. And I've made ultimate choices for each stack. So let us go through them. And I'm only going to put down on the bottom here, I think, the ultimate choice for each stack, because I think that way it'll be more memorable for you who are watching. Of course, you'll be able to see me talk about all the others anyway. And if you're really curious about the others, you can write them down. So the first pile is water music and fireworks music together. And the first disc is this one on Naxos with the Aradia Ensemble under Kevin Mallon. This is a nice, nice is the word for it. It really is pleasant, very attractive group of performances. Not the most energetic, I would say, not the most exciting, but well done. And appealing and easy to listen to, and I really kind of like it. I have to say, I really do. There are others that I like better, but these, like I said, are a nice way to acquire the suites of water music and the fireworks music at a very, very reasonable price. So that's number one. Number two, this is a twofer. And it's got all kinds of cool stuff on it. It really does. This is Christopher Hogwood with the Academy of Ancient Music on Lyrebird, L'Oiseau Lyre. And you get, in addition to the fireworks music and the water music, you get the three concerti a due corde, which are popular couplings with the fireworks music, by the way. Those are wonderful pieces. The first one is also known as the Concerto of Choruses because it consists of arrangements of choruses from Handel, operas and oratorios and other things. And actually, all of these pieces seem to be arrangements. One of them, I think, is completely original. They are splendid. The due corde are full orchestra and separate wind sections generally, or two orchestras, or, they're done in different ways. Groups of oboes and horns with strings in different formats. They're marvelous pieces. Marvelous, fun to listen to, and really underappreciated. So, and we'll see them again here, believe me, they pop up. So the Concerti a due corde are nice to have. The water music is fine. You get the incidental music to The Alchemist, and you get, let's see, what else? Two arias for wind band. And this is all, authentic wind, Handel's authentic wind orchestration of some of these pieces. I'm not sure about the fireworks music. I don't think it's the original wind band scoring of the fireworks music, which is extraordinary. I'm just trying to see here. I got to look because I don't remember. When I was writing my Handel book, I went through all this stuff, but I didn't have to do it again. So who knows? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Good performances, and the music is not such as to tax what I regard as Hogwood's rather limited expressive skills. He was a wonderful keyboard artist, a tremendous musical scholar, but as an interpreter, he lacked something, I think, of the warmth and gumption that we come to expect in some of this music. So he's best in music in small forms like dance suites and things like that, and that was good for him. Another This is a classic version of both works together. The fireworks music and the water music with Raymond Leppard, who we used to call Lepard until we found out his name was Leppard. Anyway, Raymond Leppard doing both these suites. This is this was like sort of a reference recording for many years. Leppard was a superb Handel conductor. He recorded the complete Handel instrumental music. He did operas and oratorios. He did lots and lots of Handel. He was really one of the great Handel conductors before the period instrument movement kind of wiped away everybody who wasn't part of them. And this is a wonderful recording if you can still find it. I love it and I enjoy it frequently, and I think it's absolutely marvelous. However, here we go. My choice for a coupling of the two of them, the fireworks and the water music put together, is, believe it or not, Jordi Savall with Le Concert des Nations. I really like this, and I know that it's sort of every English group, and their mothers and colonies, does this music, and they do it quite well. But there's something about this performance I really like. I don't think, this is the scoring of the fireworks music that includes strings. It's not the original wind band orchestration, but my oh my, it's awfully good. I mean, there's a warmth and an energy. I always use that word warmth. It's not because of like vibrato. I mean a warmth to the sound, to the playing, to the timbres of the instruments that I really like, that these performances have, that Savall's performances generally have, that he achieves without sacrificing any of the sharpness or the characteristic timbres of period instruments. And I think that this performance, which is wonderfully recorded, is absolutely superb. It was on Naive. It's probably still around. It's probably on Alia Vox now. I don't know. But if you can find Savall for these two works, this is my go-to performance for a disc that combines them. So now we're talking about recordings of the fireworks music by itself. Now, 3 of these are the original scoring. Now, the original scoring of the fireworks music, in case you did not know, was 24 oboes, 12 bassoons, divided various ways, 9 horns, 9 trumpets, 3 sets of timpani, and a whole passel of snare drums. It's an extraordinary wind band ensemble, and it really is one that was rather difficult to assemble, probably in Handel's day, and is difficult to assemble today. However, period instrument groups have been managing to do it now, and some non-period instrument groups have managed to do it. And I gotta say, it sounds absolutely fabulous in its original wind band scoring. Handel was very careful in how he wrote the thing. Even so, apparently in the manuscript, strings started to creep in la réjouissance, the réjouissance, the dum bum 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 ba-da-da-da-dum, that one. And so he went and cued in string parts for the rest of it. And you can do it that way, and you can do it, of course, with greatly reduced forces. And Handel did it with greatly reduced forces because the wind parts are there as doubling parts. It's not 24. It's not Strauss's Metamorphose, and we're not talking about 24 solo oboes all doing their own thing. They're divided in a group of 12, 8, and 4 in 3 parts for the most part. And that's sort of how the piece works. But it is glorious when you can get the whole band together. But one wonderful performance that I have always loved is Charles Mackerras, who we're going to see more than once. Charles Mackerras, that great Handelian. And here we have the water music in its string, smaller chamber orchestra version, because this is also with the English Chamber Orchestra, the same group with Raymond Leppard, and you get the 3 concerti a due cori. Now, this is on Novalis, and it's a wonderful record if you can still find it, and you want the sort of normal version of the fireworks music with just the 3 concerti, and you don't want 2 discs of Hogwood stuff on period instruments, which I can well understand, although in this case I think they're really very good. However, Mackerras struck earlier, and this is on Testament. This was the first ever recording of the fireworks music in Handel's original orchestration. Now, apparently what happened was he got every single available wind player in London, and this is on Modern Instruments, and threw them in a large room at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and they all got drunk and they had a go at it. And oh my God, it sounds wonderful. In fact, they sound better when they're drunk than they do when they're sober. It's a marvelous, marvelous performance. It's on Testament, as I said. This was the young Macaris when he was just starting out, and everybody had just a blast of a time. It also contains one concerto a due corde, and then sort of the bits of other things with the London Symphony Orchestra. You get the two concertos. I don't know what they are, 1 and 3, because there are all kinds of other concertos by Handel that got, appeared in his lifetime that are arrangements of things. So there are 2 of those, and the Hamilton Hardy arrangement of the Water Music Suite, which I said we're not going to talk about, but which apparently shows up on here, and then the overture to Berenice, which we can't live without, can we? That combines 2 Macaris Handel discs. The original one was just the fireworks music and some other stuff with the Pro Arte Orchestra, which of course is a pickup ensemble consisting of a lot of drunken wind players. It's marvelous, absolutely marvelous. So there's Macaris for the fireworks music. If you want the fireworks music on authentic period instruments, there is this one with Trevor Pinnock and the English Concert. And you also get, let's see, what else do we get with this one? The Concerto in F major, the Concerto in D major, the Passacaglia Gigue and Minuet, and the occasional suite in D major. These are all, possibly spurious or miscellaneous Handel things, but they're all marvelous. I mean, it's all Handel's music somehow, in some way, in the way that we deal with Handel. And you get the fireworks music in its original wind band scoring on crap loads of period instruments, which is just so much fun to hear. It really is. The performance is splendid and exciting. However, if I had to pick one, and this is the fireworks music in its original wind band scoring on period instruments, it starts to get very, very long, to talk about these things. It really does. But this is the one I would choose. Robert King on Hyperion, for a couple of reasons. First of all, the recording is a knockout. Second of all, the performance is a knockout. And thirdly, the coupling, I think, is the most interesting. You get the 4 Coronation Anthems. Wonderfully done. I mean, these are my go-to recordings of the Coronation Anthems on period instruments, too. They're splendid, absolutely splendid. And I think it's a great coupling because, it's really meaty music. You'll want to have both of these things. And I just love this disc. This is one of, I think, the great Handel recordings. So, Robert King, the King's Consort, the fireworks music, and the 4 Coronation Anthems on Hyperion. That is my pick on period instead. It's on period instruments. And I know some of you people think, whoa, I have this reputation for not liking period instruments. That isn't true at all. I've recommended more recordings on period instruments of more music than most of you will ever listen to in your lives. I mean, that's a fact. What I dislike is the scholarship that insists, A, that there's something authentic about what they're doing, and B, misreading of historical sources, because some of their approach to things, especially string playing and string vibrato, is demonstrably wrong. And the performances suffer as a result. But here we're only dealing with wind instruments for the most part, and so it doesn't make any difference how scraggly the strings actually sound. It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful performance. Now, we're going to talk about 4 recordings of the water music by itself, or with, a little bit of other coupling things. First of all, not period instruments, Macaris again. The water music this is the Orchestra of St. Luke's. It's presented in the 3 normative suites. They are, let's see, what are they? They're in F major, G major, and D major. And this is just a jolly, ebullient, fun-filled, gloriously recorded experience. It's just terrific. It's Macaris. You cannot go wrong with Macaris and Handel, ever. So that's on Telarc. Then we come to period instruments, a couple period instrument performances, which I like very much. This one is the wackiest. Harnencore. Now, this was one of 2 discs by Harnencore with the Concertos Musicus Wien. It's coupled with the concerto, the Cuckoo and the Nightingale, in case you were missing that one. But basically you get the whole water music thing here. And, there were two recordings by Harnencore that just sort of blew people away for their weirdness. And it was a while before we figured out whether the weirdness was something authentic or it was just Harnencore. And now we know it was really just Harnencore doing his Harnencore-y thing. It had almost nothing to do with authenticity. The first recording that sort of taught us that was his Four Seasons with his wife, Alice Harnencore, playing the violin. Remember that slow movement of Winter? Da 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 da. That was a largo. And everyone just sort of went, oh my God, with pizzicato going, it was the weirdest sound we ever heard in our lives. But it taught us that there was stuff in this music that we had not heard before. Well, the water music was the other piece that weirded us out. Why? Because in that wonderful allegro with the horn trills, you know it, right? Harnencore, instead of horn trills, used tremolos, raspberries, like that. That's what he does. I mean, if I had permission, I would play it for you, but I think I did that even better than they do, so I don't need to. That was a shocker. I mean, where did that come from? Who the hell knows? Anyway, it's a very vigorous, exciting, and kind of weird recording of the water music. And it's not a piece where conductors have an opportunity to display a lot of individuality and personality. Well, Harnencore managed it, which was really quite something. Okay, now, another wonderful period instrument water music was Nicholas Mcgegen with the Philharmonia Baroque Orchestra. This is on Harmonia Mundi. It is absolutely lovely, fun to listen to. Again, these are not the music. The music was made to be foolproof. It's the only way to say it. It's foolproof music. It doesn't require a lot of interpretive ability. It has to be lively, it has to be rhythmic, it has to be colorful, and it's all of those things. If you just leave it alone, find a decent tempo, and let it rip, well, that's what they do. That's what they do, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful performance with Nick Mcgegen, the Philharmonia Baroque Orchestra on Harmonia Mundi. However, my recommendation for the best ever water music, oh God, I love this water music, and it's the one recommendation that is not on period instruments. It's the water music, this one, with the Scottish National Orchestra and Alexander Gibson. It's the Scottish Chamber Orchestra, actually, but it's the Scottish National Orchestra. I mean, the Scottish Chamber Orchestra I think then it was. I don't know. I'm not going to make my fool out of myself. It's the Scottish Chamber Orchestra with Alexander Gibson on Chandos. I love this performance of the water music. I think, first of all, it is the most glowingly recorded. It is so beautifully recorded. Just the sound of it somehow strikes me as so right. It does not sound like the instruments are on a barge floating down the River Thames, which is really good. So far, the authenticity people have not gotten to that point where they stick everyone on a barge, hook up a microphone, and hope for the best, If you really wanted to be authentic, I'll bet that would have sounded like something, especially if the water is choppy on the day, right? But Gibson, when he was on, as he was in a lot of his Sibelius and some of his Elgar and other things, he was such a lively and sort of life-enhancing kind of musician. He really was. And this is such a beautiful, beautiful performance. The music just seems to glow with this sort of inner light. I don't know how else to describe it. It has wonderful, wonderful character. It's beautifully balanced. The winds and the strings. You hear the textures. It's a celebration of Handelian sonority. That's what I would call it. And I recommend this performance as highly as I can recommend anything. I think it's fabulous for the water music, and that is my recommendation. So, to recapitulate, let's put all this stuff away, and let me find all the ones that I've recommended primarily so that we can have a sort of summary here. Hang on, I've got all this junk sitting here. My God. All these recordings. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Really, it's like, okay, got it. We're ready. So, for the fireworks music with the water music on a single disc, Jordi Savall with Le Concert des Nations for the fireworks music alone in the original wind band scoring on period instruments, no less. It's Robert King, coupled with the Coronation Anthems on Hyperion. Absolutely glorious recording. God, I just love it. And for the water music all by itself, on not period instruments, but just a glowingly beautiful performance with perfect everything, Alexander Gibson with the Scottish Chamber Orchestra. Oh, I love this record on Chandos. So those are the recommendations. However you slice it, keep on listening, folks. Take care and enjoy your water and your fireworks.